needed an auctioneer, and I hired a buddy of mine who did an okay job, but I thought, I could do that. As hard as politics are to stomach sometimes, as sportsmen, we need to be involved. We just flat need to be involved. As much as I love to hunt big deer and elk, if I had to pick one thing to do for the rest of my life in the outdoors, it'd be to hunt predators. Whether you agree with trapping or not, trappers are an absolute critical part of the history of this country. I mean, we felt like we were calling in herds of polar bears. It was just unbelievable. They just overrunning us, and it was just amazing. My dad still kills a lot of coyotes. He hardly ever wears camo. He sits in front of a sagebrush and tells me the best camo is hold still. A lot of times people are going out and they're not having success on their stands because they're not calling to coyotes. They're calling to empty country. All right, folks, here we go. How many dollars? $50 now. What about an average to get 60? 60 here now, 70, 70, 80, 80, 90, 90 now. What about an average to give $100? Now, what about an average to give 100? Hey, folks, this is John Bair, and you're listening to Living Country in the City.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
All right, y'all, welcome to episode 108 of Living Country in the City. Y'all want to say a big thank you to Sawyer Products for their continual support of the podcast. Make sure y'all head on over to sawyer.com/Lyme-disease. It is summer, y'all, and the ticks are plentiful as we are getting into the outdoors, whether that's hunting, scouting, or just camping with the family. So make sure y'all head on over, visit Sawyer, and check out all the awesome products and information on how you can keep yourself and your family safe from ticks and Lyme disease this summer. All right, y'all, heading back to Hunt Expo, I got a chance to sit down with the one and only John Bair. Y'all, this guy is a wealth of knowledge, and we have an awesome time talking about predator hunting in general, and really just a lot of the battles and issues facing hunters these days. So without further ado, hope you all enjoy episode 108 with John Bair. Here we are in the Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife. I don't know, does this count as a booth?
Yeah, I think this kind of counts as a booth, as a headquarters, I guess, for the expo. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little big to count as a booth, I feel like. I'm not sure it's the right term. But here, a final day of I almost called it the wrong show again. Yeah. It's the first time. Hunting and Conservation Expo, yep. Western Hunting Conservation Expo. I am sitting here with the man with the golden voice. If you don't recognize those buttery tones from Mr. John Bair, how you doing today?
Good, man. Doing real good. I'm glad it's the last day. We've had an epic show, but it's a long weekend. It is. It makes for a long week, and it's so fun to see everybody and just get everybody together. And there's so many great things going on. But I tell you, after 4 or 5 days of this, you're ready to go home and get a little rest. So,
well, it's funny. We were just talking about. I met you last year. I was and trying to figure out exactly when, but I think we were both kind of standing by the entrance here and just waiting for someone or something to happen, and probably complimenting you on the tux or the hat or whatever you were dressed up all fancy like. And
yeah, once in a while we dress up for the auctions and stuff. So
we, I think, we just sat and talked for 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it was, and then I ran into you over at the Fox Pro booth later and just kind of talked a few times. And this year, I swear I've seen you every 15 minutes this year.
Man, it seems like we've run into each other a lot. I mean, we both get around here quite a bit and know quite a few people. So, yeah, we run into each other a lot.
But, yeah, I really had no idea who you were. You're just the cool guy in the cowboy hat that I talked to last year. And then suddenly, I think I was at the banquet. My friend had an extra ticket to the banquet, invited me along. And all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, that's my buddy up on stage right there. What's he doing? And I kind of asked them about you, and oh yeah, he does all this stuff, and I'm like, I was just a random guy I talked to last year.
Still just a random guy. So yep.
Well, yeah. So how's the show been? It's been a long weekend.
Yeah, it's been epic.
You've been awfully busy.
Been very busy, but it's been really good. We have record attendance, record people applying for the permits out front, and all the vendors are giving us good reports. They're doing a lot of business and booking a lot of hunts, selling a lot of product, and all the big social events, the banquets, the auctions, all that stuff have been great. So no complaints whatsoever. Feel like it's been a huge success.
Yeah, all my buddies that I've been talking to that have booths out here, they just I walk up to them today and they got that kind of
dazed look. And so how's it been going? And they're like, man, it's been going great. And then you get the but I can barely stand up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, walking around, being that many hours on your feet, it takes a toll on you.
Oh, yeah. Well, so for those who don't know who John Bair is, why don't you maybe give a little bit of an introduction just about yourself? And I would love to hear how you got started in the outdoors and hunting.
Well, a buddy of mine, I don't think he's standing around here anymore. I moved in just down the street from him. And we were actually playing in a basketball league together, and he was the only one that had a camo jacket on. And so I thought, I got to meet that guy, you know. Got talking to him, and we started shooting archery leagues together. And I tagged along with him to a couple meetings, public meetings with the Utah Division of Wildlife, and got involved with kind of the public process. Actually, eventually got on the Regional Advisory Council for our area that helps set policy for wildlife management. After my term expired there, I was actually on the Utah Wildlife Board for 6 years. A lot of states have a commission. Utah has a wildlife board. I got on the Utah Wildlife Board for 6 years, served as chairman for a couple years. So I've been really involved in the wildlife management part of it. Got involved with SFW and the Mule Deer Foundation doing, conservation projects, helping raise money. And one time I was chairing a banquet, and I needed an auctioneer, and I hired a buddy of mine who did an okay job, but I thought, I could do that. And so this has been about, 18, 19 years ago. I thought, I bet I could do that. So called my dad and says, I want to go to auctioneer school and learn how to do that. And they said, son, you talk too slow. I says, well, I'm going to do it anyway. So my dad called me back the next day and says, well, I'll go with you. So me and my dad went to auctioneer school together, and that first year I maybe did 2 or 3 auctions, and it just kind of built from there. Now I've been doing them for about 18 years. I do a ton of conservation organization fundraisers, Mule Deer Foundation, Sportsmen, Fish and Wildlife. I do some elk banquets. I do turkey banquets. I've just did the Wild Sheep Foundation in Reno last year, and of course the Hunt Expo here. And it has just grown and grown and grown. And now I spend a lot of time helping raise money for conservation, and that's probably where I meet most of the people. But that's where people probably see me the most. But I think probably part of the work that I'm the most proud of is the time I've spent involved with the Division of Wildlife and the Wildlife Board and that, working for conservation and hunters' rights and that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of involved on a couple different levels. So.
Just a little bit there.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it takes up most of my time. Not all of it, but most of it.
Well, so you have a lot of insight into probably a lot of the challenges that are faced, especially here in Utah, challenges that are facing hunters, the hunting community, our wild places, our wild creatures. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges we're looking at right now?
Well, habitat is huge. I don't know if people realize, but just we lose thousands of acres every year by pinyon juniper encroachment. Those trees grow several inches a year, drop their needles, poison the ground, and basically eat up habitat. Mm-hmm. And so that's a huge issue. We spend a ton of money grinding up pinyon juniper trees, planting shrubs and browse and grass and everything that deer and elk and antelope can eat. That's a problem. Winter range is a problem. I mean, there's only so much land, and the population of humans keeps growing, and they all need a place to live. So we lose a lot of ground to development. That's a challenge. We try to do everything we can to protect critical habitat, of course. There's always challenges with energy development. We always have issues that we need to deal with disease control, especially with our bighorn sheep herds that we've dealt with here in Utah. It's been in the news a little bit. So a lot of stuff like that as far as on-the-ground issues. Socially, there's always things to worry about. The anti-hunter movement continues to grow every day, and I think as sportsmen and hunters, it's important, very important for us to be involved in a very active and aggressive yet professional way. I think sometimes we're our worst enemy with the way we present ourselves. But, we need to be involved in public meetings. We need to work hard with our legislators, with our governors, to make sure that we have people that are involved.
I'm distracting him right now.
It's all good. To make sure we have people involved that see things our way and that will stand up for what we want. If you have a governor that's an anti-hunter or that doesn't believe in, hunting rights, Second Amendment rights, they can make life really hard on you. Really hard on you. So it's important to be.
Sorry, got some caught in my throat there for a minute.
Right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We're seeing that in Colorado right now. They've elected a new governor that leans pretty far to the left, and now they want to transplant 500 wolves in there. That would be devastating to the wildlife in Colorado. So as hard as politics are to stomach sometimes, as sportsmen, we need to be involved. We just flat need to be involved. So
it's tough too, and the fight is on so many different fronts. It is that's the weird thing is
that is very true.
We as people, it's so easy to be a single issue voter or just passionate about a single issue, and I'm super passionate. I love the guys over at BHA for the work they do with public lands. But as a hunter, I know that's their focus. But as a hunter, I can be super passionate about public lands, but I've also got to be passionate about wildlife. And so, I've also got to be passionate about my right to hunt on those public lands as well, and whether that's to carry a rifle, to carry a bow. There's so many different fronts that we get attacked on that we have to defend, and it's awesome. You got your RMEF shield wall over here, you got your BHA shield wall over here, but they need us to help support, and they're not the only ones working.
Yep, and like you said, the battle is on so many fronts. If you mentioned a single issue voter. If we're a single issue sportsman, a lot of times we'll do ourselves some harm. We have to try to look big picture. Public lands is a big thing. The management of the public lands is a big thing, and that's a hot topic, really hot topic right now. Some people think, well, we need to leave it 100% up to the federal government. Well, I've dealt a lot with the federal government, and I am not a fan. And, some things they've done great on, but the federal land management agencies have a lot of, to be honest with you, Clinton and Obama appointees that don't really care whether you have access to hunt or fish. They just don't. And so you've got to work on a lot of different levels. Do we want to protect our public lands? 100%. But we also need to have reasonable access. We need to be able to do habitat projects. We need to be able to do transplants, translocations, do things that will allow us to manage our herds. We can't just close all the trails and lock up the roads and just let them be what they are, because sometimes we need to get in there and help things out a little bit. So like you said, it really is a battle and not a single issue discussion. We need to look big picture, and sometimes that means something that we're passionate about and we might feel strongly about, we might need to set aside for the greater good. There's been a lot of issues when I was on the wildlife board, especially, where me personally, it might not be my favorite way to vote, but as I look across the landscape and across the demographics of the state, I knew the right thing to do was probably not what my best interest was. And sometimes that's tough to do, but I think if we're really concerned about the wildlife and about the habitat and about our hunting heritage, sometimes we all have to set our personal interest aside.
So what we talked about some of the challenges and struggles that we're facing as sportsmen. Where have you seen victories? Where what can we be proud of as sportsmen?
Well, I can tell you, there's a few of them. Here in Utah, several years ago, we had a pretty big fight over some transplants of some mountain goats. And there were some pretty politically active groups that don't really favor hunting at all. And they showed up in force to try to stop the transplants of these mountain goats. We was able to work hard, get it passed, and now through our public meeting process this year, we actually went through and decided it's time to start hunting these mountain goats. So there's people that are going to be hunting a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity on mountain goats that we really had to fight really hard to put in place. There was some of the wildest meetings I was ever involved the crow hunt. When we put the crow hunt in place here in Utah, people just lost their marbles over that. They couldn't believe we'd shoot a crow, and then you get looking, and we were one of 3 states that didn't already have a crow hunt in place. So I get pictures all the time of guys with crows that they've went out and shot and sent me a thank you saying, appreciate the opportunity and the work we put in to make that possible. Some of the things we've also seen some real progress in is youth programs. You know, Sportsmen, Fish, and Wildlife raises a lot of money and invests a lot of money in youth programs, first-time hunter programs where we take chuckers and pheasants out and plant them in the state wildlife management areas, and then work hard to recruit young people and first-time hunters to go out there, teach them firearm safety, teach them how to shoot, and let them get out and shoot some birds. And so, you know, there's a lot of really good things happening. There really is a lot of really good things happening.
I actually just went out. I did a little bit of upland game hunting for the first time ever in Arizona this January, and I was never interested in it, but after doing that, I mean, we're talking like 45 minutes of it. We were on a different hunt, and we saw some quail, and we're like, all right, we're gonna pull the shotguns out of the back of the truck. We're gonna switch from the bow, and I never got it until I went and did that.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, I get it now. And I look at that, and I'm like, that is the perfect hunt for youth, for introducing someone. I never had any interest of it because I wanted that big romantic hunt.
Yep.
But you get so much excitement about that, so much action. That's a blast.
Well,
that is not a boring hunt.
You know, and you're right, because a lot of times wing shooting, I mean, you're sitting on pins and needles the whole time. A lot of times you get to see a great dog work, you know. Anything that involves a good hunting dog's a lot of fun. And like you said, it's a good opportunity. A lot of times you don't have to, you know, take the kids out and hike them to death. You get them out, they get some exercise. It's a good opportunity to teach them, you know, firearm safety, and they get some shooting in. And if they miss, it's not a big deal because they're probably going to get to shoot again in a few minutes, you know. And it's a great family opportunity. A lot of times, you know, there's not a lot of travel time involved. You know, it's something you can do fairly close to home. It's a lot of fun. It's just, and there's just so many different ways we can introduce people to the outdoors, you know, and if we all like to do the exact same thing, it would be pretty crowded for whatever that thing is, and then a lot of the other resource would go to waste, you know. So, yeah, I love to bird hunt. I just don't have enough time to do it as much as I'd like, but, you know, the first time I ever really got into bird hunting was hunting quail in Arizona with some friends, and it was awesome. You know, I loved it, and I wish I had time to do it more. But you know, like you say, those are great opportunities to introduce first-time hunters and you know, kids to hunting.
Well, so many of those opportunities too, they're available while you're out on your big game hunts too. So, you know, you bring. I mean, obviously, depending on your state laws, you know, like many states do not take a rifle out while you are on a bow tag.
We were archery hunting javelina down in Arizona.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah, and then you know. And then when it would warm up during the day or in the middle of the afternoon, when maybe the hunting for javelina wasn't as good, we'd go out and make a couple quail drives, shoot some quail, and that's how we got our dinner, man. I mean, it was awesome. And, you know, then it got to be a little competition. Of course, the buddies I was hunting with are pretty regular bird hunters, so I didn't have a chance to outshoot them guys because they were really good with a shotgun, and I'm not. But, you know, it was just fun. Just another way to enjoy the outdoors and experience, you know, something that I don't have around where I live. We don't have quail, so at least not very many. So, you know, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Now, so what – this is probably a very broad question, so interpret it however you want. But what are you passionate about with hunting? What is it about hunting that gets you going?
Well, I grew up in a little town in central Utah, Manti. Just a little farm town, and grew up on a sheep ranch. And we grew up absolutely hating coyotes. I mean, we hated them buggers because they cost us a lot of money. And, I mean, you'd raise your show lambs up and put them out in the pasture for a week and come back and coyotes got them or something like that. So I grew up just hunting coyotes, hunting predators. We used to run lion hounds all the time, chase lions and bears, and so I love to hunt predators. And there's just something to me about hunting predators that, I mean, that's my favorite thing. That is my favorite thing to do. It's always been my favorite thing to do. And as much as I love to hunt big deer and elk, and I've killed a couple sheep, which was amazing, if I had to pick one thing to do for the rest of my life in the outdoors, it would be to hunt predators. And so my great-grandpa was a trapper for, you know, a lot of the livestock operators around. And so, grew up trapping and just enjoying that. And, that's the kind of stuff that really gets me charged up. I just, it's kind of the old school trapper, predator, hunter, wolfer type thing. That's kind of my gig. So
I'll tell you, I've recently just started developing an interest in trapping, and so I gotta go take my test and all that stuff, do my study and figure that out. But I just like the idea because I also wanted to start. I love hides. I think they're really cool, and I want to start getting into doing that and tanning hides. And
I tell you, if you want to learn about an animal, if you really want to learn their habits, learn their characteristics, you go out and you learn to trap, because you have to figure out when they're going to be there, where they're going to be, where they're going to put that foot even, and how to get them to do it. And, man, you just learn so much. Not only that, to me, it's the heritage that comes with trapping, just it's just, whether you agree with trapping or not, trappers are an absolute critical part of the history of this country. I mean, they had a huge part in the settlement of all of the country, not just the West, but back in the East. I mean, and so.
Well, have you seen what's the show there that's on Netflix right now? Frontier.
Yeah.
Where it's just, of course, very over dramatized, but all practically wars were fought over
furs.
Over
countries went to war over the fur trade, over beavers. And it was, it's just crazy. So, to me, there's something very, I don't know if I'd say nostalgic, about trapping and that whole thing. And I think it's kind of becoming a lost art. I love when I see young people out learning how to do it and kind of carrying that on, because I think it's super valuable, and there's a lot of great lessons to be learned there.
Oh, yeah. And it's tough because it's kind of an un-PC thing. Hunting in general is considered an un-PC thing, I guess. But, even among hunters, some of them just don't like the idea. But it's you can shoot as many coyotes as you want. You're still never going to make a dent in the population.
You cannot, and that's the thing about coyotes. You have to kill 70% of them for several years to even affect the population, and even then you ain't affecting it that much. They are the most resilient animal on the planet. And, they just – every year we just shoot them buggers, and they just – seems like there's more and more and more of them. So
I was talking with someone I can't remember if it was it may have been I did a coyote hunt podcast recently with Garrett Johnson. And, I think it may have been him that said, he's like, if we had a nuclear holocaust, they always say there'll be cockroaches left. He's like, I'd say there'd be cockroaches and coyotes.
Yeah, that's what they always say. There'll be a cockroach and a coyote left after the nuclear war, and that'll probably be it. But yeah, old Garrett, he kills a pile of them for sure. I know him pretty well, but he does a good job.
Yeah. I down in Arizona, these guys go hunt with down there, and they I was never. No, and I thought it was cool. I had nothing against hunting coyotes. I'm like, cool, something to do. But my buddies kind of got me into calling a little bit. They're down in Arizona, and just in between, I was down there for a muley hunt. My buddy had an antelope tag, and it was a pretty tough hunt for him. And so sometimes we just be like, nope, we're gonna go calling some foxes and coyotes tonight. And they took me out for the first time, and it was a few stands. And one day, then finally we called in a fox and took it, one shot with the shotgun, and he's in my freezer now.
Yep.
That was my first kill, and from then on, that second on, I was like, no, it wasn't even then. That was what solidified it, but it was the first time I had a fox run in.
Yep.
I was like, holy crap, this is putting a challenge on elk for me right now.
Yeah. There's just as much as it's. I love, like I said, as much as I love to hunt big bucks and elk and call elk and all those kind of things, to see predators respond to the call,
oh man,
it's a thrill, and it's something, everybody. I got family members that love to call geese and ducks. That just really trips their trigger. But to me, to see those predators react and to know you've tricked one of the smartest critters out there, that's a charge, man. I really enjoy it. So.
Oh man, no, I'm definitely hooked.
Yeah, it's easy to get hooked on. We do a lot of different kind of predator hunting. I've recently got into night hunting. I got some thermals and some night stuff, and that's a lot of fun. Some areas you can hunt better at night than you can in day. And we also have decoy dogs we use where we'll go out in the spring when they have dens, and you go out and get a coyote to howl, and the dog will run out through just a few hundred yards out there where the coyote's at, and them coyotes, they don't like them domestic dogs hanging around them, man. They'll come chase them, and the dog will run back to you. And pretty soon you got coyotes and dogs running around. You're, about running you in the ground, the coyote trying to get a hold of that dog. And, I've shot coyotes at 4 and 5 feet trying to get a hold of them dogs, man.
Wow.
That is a rush. So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do it. It's so fun.
That's something I've had a lot of people tell me that have done decoy dog, and they're like, you need to try this. You need to experience this one time because it's just a blast.
It is. When it works, it's amazing. I mean, people got to realize that when when you're watching on YouTube and you watch some of our Fox Pro stuff on YouTube and that you're watching the highlight reel. Mm-hmm. You're watching the highlight reel because we spend a lot of time on a lot of dry stands. A lot of times, you'll call in a coyote or get a coyote going. The dog will run over the hill and you're waiting for it to all work out, and they just never come back for an hour, and you don't know where the coyote went. And there's a lot of dry stands and a lot of screw ups involved, and but that's all part of the learning curve. I always tell people, hey, when you're watching our YouTube stuff and our Instagram stuff, you're watching the highlight reel.
Oh, yeah.
You're not watching the days and hours and hours and hours spent on dry stands where we're scratching our head wondering what's going on, why isn't nothing coming in. So, when people are out there learning to hunt coyotes, learning to hunt predators, anything, whether they're going to hunt ducks, geese, deer, elk, whatever, it flat takes a lot of time, and it just takes a lot of work. Now, everybody's, going to have a lucky day where they feel pretty good, where they're going to get it figured out, but there's also a lot of days where guys that have proven they're really good and are really successful, there's a lot of days where they're just going to be sitting out there wondering what is going on, nothing's coming, nothing's happening, and feel like a rookie all over again. But that's why we do it. That's why we do it.
Well, it's tough, and I feel like predator. I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm totally out of line here. I feel like with predator calling, it's almost it either works and they're coming in and they're there, or it's you just don't see them.
Some days they just come rolling in. We hunted in Alberta this fall, and we had a couple days where those coyotes up there are huge. They're huge and they're just so white. I mean, we felt like we were calling in herds of polar bears. It was just unbelievable. They just overrunning us, and it was just amazing. And then, a couple days later, in the same country where you think they've just been running you over again, they just shut down, and we were done. And I went to Georgia, had a chance to go to Georgia here a few weeks ago with some buddies, and we hunted pigs and we hunted coyotes. And while we were in Georgia, man, they were just running us over, having a great time, and we thought the next day, all right, we're going to make a run up to Virginia. My buddy's like, man, I got some great spots in Virginia. And the coyotes would answer, and we'd go in and set up on them. And we swore to heck somebody had a call and was messing with us that would answer us, but there was no coyotes because we just couldn't get them to come. And, for 3 nights, we worked our guts out, and we saw one coyote. And that was just – some days that's just how they are. They just shut down, and but I think that's why you do it. Just you're hunting for the good days.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing that makes the good days so good is the bad days. The bad days, you try to sort through those to get to the good days. If it was all good days, I don't know that we'd appreciate it as much. So.
Oh, yeah. No, I got hooked, and I went and second I got home from that trip, I went and bought myself a little decoy. And I went and dug through the old cabinet. Because years prior, like when I didn't know anything about hunting or how it worked or anything like that, I just thought, okay, got to hunt. You got to have a call for like all the animals, right? And so I went on Amazon and I bought old Fox Pro Spitfire. This is probably 7-8 years ago, something like that. And I had to look through like my order history just to see when I bought it. And I don't think I ever used it once. I don't think I ever even put batteries in it. And I didn't end up going hunting. That was the dip right before I really got hooked into it. And so I went. It took me a while to find it, both because of course the call was over here and the remote was in a completely different cupboard because why would I honor
I
keep stuff
know.
together?
I know. That's I went. It's funny you mention that because me and a buddy went down to compete in one of the biggest coyote contests in the country this year, and I had all my stuff set up. All of it set out. We head down. We was down in Arizona hunting. I get my call out and get digging through my bag, and I had drove 500 miles and left my remote sitting on the kitchen table. So now, luckily, my partner, he's a super accomplished coyote hunter too, and he had, we had a couple other calls with us, so we were fine. But my favorite call, I left the remote on the kitchen table, and so that's just got to roll with the punches, I guess.
Well, we did that. I was down this January. We were hunting javelina.
Mm-hmm.
And well, same thing. In between, we're trying to call foxes, coyotes, and my other buddy Josh, who was normally up with us, he wasn't able to come, but he texted this whole group, and he's like, "All right, guys, two of y'all, the four of y'all need to split up, teams of two, and $300 to whoever calls in the most coyotes."
There you go.
And so we go out, and we're all like, "All right, we're gonna do this." We haul ass out, and we get to our stand, we get in, and we're at this night hunt. We're doing night hunting, so we got the lights, everything. We get out there, and we're set up. We're down. We're waiting. He's like, "All right." He's reaching in his bag. I'm like, "There's a lot of rustling going on right now." He's like, "I don't have the call. I don't have the remote.
have a call.
I don't have the remote." And so we go through. We look through everything. We go back to the truck. We can't find it. So we end up having to drive back to find it because of course we didn't bring any hand calls with us. So we were in such a rush.
Go.
So we go get my call back at the house. We go out. All right, next stand. We go to set up. We're thinking like, okay, they've already called in a few. We're way behind, but we're gonna give it hell. So we go get my call. We go out. We put it out. We get it ready. Flip it on. Press the button, and all we hear from the call is
dead batteries.
And I'm like, and I got dead batteries. So we get back to the house, and we're sitting there. We just call them. We're like, "We're done, guys. We'll see you back at the house." They show up. We're expecting them to be like, "Ah." They show up. They're like, "Yeah, batteries died in one of our calls." All four of us had the same night.
That can be a painful thing for getting stuff. I forgot calls. I forgot bullets before. Heck, I've even went to some of these big auctions. Sometimes we do auctions, or banquets out in these small towns, and I have to carry my sound system with me, and I'll get out there and I'll forget like one of my speakers or one of my cables or something like that. And it's just, I tell you, that's you learn to roll with the punches. That's just the way it goes. I forgot my cordless sound system a few times, and just it's a peach of a deal. I went hunting one time and left my dog in a dog box on the porch, thinking I would throw him in the bag. I had my mind somewhere else. I had to call home. Hey, put the dog away. I drove off 3 hours and forgot him. So it's all part of the game, I guess.
He was probably all excited, thinking, "All right, we're gonna do some work."
Yeah, but he was running around the yard, and so I put him in a dog box that was sitting on the front porch, and jumped in my truck and took off. And I got out and looked in the dog box in the back of the truck. Didn't have no dog. So yeah, sometimes it makes you feel pretty smart when you do stuff like that. But
so say somebody wanted to get started predator hunting, like somebody that maybe doesn't have a ton of experience hunting. They heard like, well, this is a good way for me to kind of introduce myself to this other stuff, because you can get started for nothing.
You can get started pretty cheap.
You can buy a used shotgun or whatever.
You got a shotgun, if you got a deer rifle, basically any gun that'll kill a coyote's a good coyote gun. I'm walking around here with a diaphragm clipped to my lanyard as we're speaking. You can make about any coyote sound, any distress sound with an elk diaphragm.
Yep.
For $20, you can go down to Sportsman's Warehouse and buy a hand call. I killed a lot of coyotes with a hand call before I ever owned a Fox Pro. So, and then get on YouTube, or podcasts. Just look up Predator podcasts and listen to guys talk and share their experiences. Get on YouTube. We do a lot of stuff with Fox Pro Hunting TV on YouTube, or the old Fur Taker show that we used to do on the Outdoor Channel. All that stuff's on YouTube now. And you can watch some of the best predator hunters in the country, just go through their stands and their setup. And the thing is, if you watch not just the sounds they make, but where they set up, how they position their gun and stuff, all the little things, you just kind of pick up on that, and then just go out and spend some time in the brush and start making noise, watch the wind, hold still. And you don't have to have all the fancy stuff. You just don't have to do it. My dad still kills a lot of coyotes. He hardly ever wears camo. He wears a Levi jacket. He sits in front of a sagebrush, and he tells me the best camo is hold still.
Yep.
And he still uses an old wood Cersei call. And he's got a 22-250 with a couple of wood shooting sticks he put together. And I tell you, he is deadly. He kills a lot of coyotes, and he is as old school as they come.
I'll tell you, I'm still working on my first. I almost got one. I've called in a few.
Yep.
Called in 3. One I had my nephew on the gun. I was calling for him, and we brought in one. The first one we brought in, we were calling out this way. The wind was coming straight at us. Thought we were a great setup. We were in like in a little riverbed kind of a thing. And I guess that riverbed was blocking our wind just perfectly because we had one. All of a sudden, we hear this right above us, probably about 2-3 feet. He's standing above us. We're right down here, and he's just looking down at the decoy, wondering neither of us could wheel around in time to get him. You know, he came run up. He was there for about 10 seconds before we even realized that he was there, and then he was off. But, that was super exciting. Then I clipped one time with the shotgun and got it jammed and couldn't rack another one to save my life, and she got away.
Yeah, I wish I could say I've never had that happen. But, and that's the thing. You go out, you spend some time, you learn how to do something new, and you're learning a way to enjoy the outdoors. You're learning a way to spend time in the outdoors, to hunt that when there's not a deer and elk season going on. If you want to get out and go hunting, you can hunt predators whenever you want.
Oh, yeah.
You can hunt predators whenever you want. And so –
and most of the time if a lot of residents don't even require a license.
Yep.
Most places you can go just about anywhere and hunt predator, especially coyote. And some are, some will be listed as fur bearers.
Yep.
Some are
just some states you have to have but
you just got to look at the regs.
Usually the most you have to have is a maybe a small game license or a hunt license. So it's not like you're buying a $500 elk tag or anything like that. It's a pretty cheap game to play. It can be as expensive as you want it to be, and I'm here to tell you, for me, it has gotten insanely expensive since we started buying, thermal scopes and that. But that is totally unnecessary. If you want to, you can, but it's totally unnecessary. If you want a night hunt, you can go down to the store and buy a cheap spotlight, and you can go out night hunting. And to get started, you don't have to have the fancy gear. I'm telling you, and I do a lot with Fox Pro. I'm on their staff, and and we promote their stuff, and they make some great stuff. But you don't have to start with a $600 call. You don't have to start with a $7,000 thermal scope. If you have your 270 or your 243 deer rifle, and you can go down and buy you a hand call, you can kill coyotes. And sometimes the more old school your technology, the more rewarding it is.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just I don't know. It's just cool to sometimes take the hand calls out and in the old guns and just get it done that way.
I'm still working on the hand calls. I carry them with me, and I'll try them every time I go out. At least like one stand, I'll try them for a while, and just to practice. And I'm starting to. It's one of those things. It's kind of once it clicks, you start getting it. It's like, oh, okay, and I get how to replicate this sound now, and but it's fun because it's more of it. The Fox Pro's great. You press the button, it makes the sound. And you can switch them, you can do all that. But there's something to that art of using a hand call too.
Yep, there is, and and with the diaphragms as well. And depending on the time of year really determines what sounds we're playing. In the late fall and the winter, we play a lot more distress and stuff. In the spring and the summer, it's a lot more vocals and pup distress sounds and that. But the thing is, pretty much all the sounds that the Fox Pro's making, you can make on a diaphragm and a hand call. I can make almost all the coyote vocals on a diaphragm. And once you learn how to do that, it's pretty rewarding. It's pretty fun to know how to do that and to know when to use what sounds during the year. And the more you do it, the more you'll learn how to howl them in. It's so fun to howl in coyotes, vocalize to them, and talk to them and have them come running in thinking there's another coyote there in their territory or something. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
So now this is a totally self-serving question because I haven't been able to, and it may just be one of those things. I understand it's very situational, but I struggle with finding just finding where to set up my stands. I'm, because I'm still learning, and a lot of that comes from experience.
Well, I'll tell you, I think a lot of times, and I was in this boat for years and years, a lot of times people are going out and they're not having success on their stands because they're not calling to coyotes. They're calling to empty country. Mm-hmm. I found my success goes way up if I spend time scouting. And if you go out, you drive down the roads, you're looking for tracks, you're looking for scat, you're looking for kills, places where coyotes have been digging and running underneath the fences or running up and down the roads. And a lot of times we'll go out and we'll howl. Now the Fox Pro, any of the electronic callers, it's got the howls and the sirens and stuff, work real good. Or you can just take a diaphragm like I got here, go out and just howl. And you don't just wait a minute and see if anything answers. I mean, I'll sit there for 10 minutes. It's almost like we're making a stand. You just howl. Mm-hmm. Nothing too aggressive. You don't want to sound too rough and tough. You don't want to chase anything away. Just kind of a, hey, what's going on out there type howl. And if you can get one to give away their location, it absolutely changes the game because you know where he's at. You know if which all of a sudden where he's at and how the wind direction comes into play. If there's a big field, if there's some open sage country, you think, well, let's see, he's over here in this draw. If I move up on the edge of this sage, I'm going to be within 300 or 400 yards of him. And then I don't have to really get too creative with, because he's going to be right there. It's going to be easier to call him in. The closer you are to him, the better chance you have to calling him in. Now, I ain't saying I haven't seen him come for a mile and a half because I have. But I'm telling you, if you can close that gap, if you can crowd him a little bit, you don't have to use near as many tricks out of your arsenal to get him to come in if you can get close to him to begin with. So locate, scout, and then get as close as you can get to where you think they're going to be when you can you get too close? Yes, and the closer you are, you don't got to be near as loud because they can hear you. But if you can close the gap and get right in their kitchen, you're going to have some exciting experiences.
Well, I'm excited to give it a try. I'm heading down to New Mexico tomorrow.
That's good country. That's good country.
And I got Drew an Audad tag, and I'm going to be.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
Last minute, a buddy of mine hooked me up with a guy that lives in the unit down there, and so I'm going to be hunting with him. He's going to put me on some Audad, but he's not available for the first few days. And I'm glad, boy, am I glad I packed my Fox Pro. I'm glad I packed my calls, my shotgun, my rifle, because I know what I'm going to be doing. And he told me, he's like, here, I'll send you some waypoints. Where I know we got coyotes, and I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun week for me.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. You're gonna have a good time. So gonna have a good time.
Oh yeah. Well, one thing I always like to ask is this podcast is really. I like to gear it towards people that may not have the background in hunting that say somebody that grew up in it does. Because that's my passion. I'm from Los Angeles.
Sure.
Originally, and my family was never opposed to hunting. Like, they would have been fine if that's what I'd wanted to do, but we just didn't really have any background in it. It wasn't something we did. And so I would love to know if, say, somebody came up to you and you're some random guy came up and complimented your cowboy hat, and you ended up talking to him out in front by the mule deer booth.
There you go. That sounds familiar.
And he said, this I've been seeing all this stuff, and it's pretty cool, but I don't know if it's for me. I don't have the background in it. I don't really know anyone that hunts. I don't think this is something I can do. What advice or inspiration would you kind of give that person to?
I'll tell you this. I grew up in a very pro-hunting family, but me and my dad and one of my sisters were the only ones that hunted. My mom's not a real hunter. My wife's not a real hunter. They're not opposed to it. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Do I like to fish? Yeah. I'm not a good fisherman. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time fishing just because it's not as much of my thing. But, not everybody has to like things. Not everybody has to be an avid hunter. But I think it's important that people understand that we have a lot of these wildlife species because we hunt them. If it wasn't for hunters, if it wasn't for sportsmen, the wild sheep population in Utah would be all but non-existent. The mountain goats would be all but non-existent. The wild turkeys in Utah would be all but non-existent because all that stuff is there because of sportsmen's dollars and people who want to hunt. Now, if you put a value on an animal, like these tags we sell in here at these auctions. If you put a value on an animal, and guys can, can use that animal, whether it's like on our cooperative wildlife management units where these ranchers can make some money guiding elk hunts, guiding deer hunts, they're going to make darn sure those deer and elk are always there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Same way with the outfitters that guide bighorn sheep tags, or the outfitters that guide, whitetails, or the outfitters that guide quail. That's how they make their living, so they're going to make sure those animals are always there. So do you have to actively participate in hunting? Absolutely not. I have no ill will whatsoever. And in fact, my wife always says, I feel bad that I'm not more into hunting, with you. And I says, well, first off, that's okay, because then I'd have to buy you everything I'd buy me, and it'd get real expensive, right? And as long as they understand it and understand why it's important, maybe it's not for everybody. Maybe that doesn't have to be. I got a daughter that she's okay with hunting, but photography's her thing. Photography's not my thing. So as long as we respect each other and know that not all of us have to be into the same things, But I think it's important as sportsmen that we tell our story of why hunting is important, what it's done for the animals, what it's done for the landscape, because it's done a lot. It's done a lot. Now, if they don't agree with, they don't think they want to go out and actually shoot an animal, I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. We are a product of our environment. Sometimes people have grown up in a different culture, and, that's totally okay. And I totally respect that, but I would also hope that they would respect that, hunting's my life. Mm-hmm. Hunting is my life. It's ingrained in every part of my culture, my work, all the guys I work with. I'm actually, my 9 to 5 during the week, I'm an electrician. All the guys I work with, when we're at work, we're talking about hunting. We're talking about hunting. And, it's just the way it is. And when we get done with work, we're going hunting. We're going on the mountain. We're going looking at deer. We're going scouting coyotes. We're taking our hunting dogs out running. And, it's who we are. And so, no hard feelings whatsoever. If somebody says, I'm just not a hunter. I get that. Mm-hmm. But I would hope that they would respect the fact that I am a hunter, and I'm very passionate about it. And, don't try to tell me I shouldn't hunt, and I won't try to tell you that you should hunt. Although I believe you shouldn't. If you want to, I'm more than happy to teach you how, help you out any way I can. But if it's not your thing, I get that.
Well, and what if then that person was like, well, I see that importance, but I don't have that background. I kind of want to do it, but I don't know if I can.
Well, anybody that wants to can. Anybody that wants to can. And, you don't have to have crazy deep pockets to have fun hunting. A lot of kids spend every weekend hunting squirrels. A lot of kids spend every weekend hunting rabbits. A lot of people, they don't live where there's a lot of big game hunting, but they get into bow fishing. They go out in the canals and shoot carp. Or they get an air rifle and they shoot Eurasian collared doves, which we're being overrun with in Utah, and there's no limit to what you can do. And there's people that will take you out, teach you firearm safety, help you out with, whatever you need to know, take you down to the sporting goods store and, help you out. There's one of our buddies right there, Big Al Morris. How are you, cowboy?
This guy right here was probably maybe my 6th or 7th ever podcast. We sat down at about 2 years ago.
He helped me out in the auction last night and hollered so much he lost his voice, so it's kind of funny to see. Kind of funny to see Big Al, but not be able to talk. But
I was going to say, I don't think I have ever seen you in a state where you haven't been able to.
He's speechless now. Also, he went in and, here at the Western Hunt Expo, we had the elk calling contest yesterday, and Big Al was the first official winner of the Western Hunt Expo elk calling pro division. So he did good. Good job. That's about the only noise he can make right now is if he's got He won him a 28 Nosler and a nice fancy belt buckle. So, yep. I've learned a lot from hunting with, guys like Big Al that have worked in the industry forever. And, I've learned a lot from guys like my dad who just went out and hunted to fill the freezer. So, and if somebody wants to hunt, I guarantee you they know somebody that hunts that is more than happy to take them out and, just help them get set up with a pair of boots. You don't have to buy an expensive gun. You can buy a pretty cheap gun that does the job. Go out, start shooting. You can
go to a gun store. You can find a used rifle or shotgun that'll do you for
do you a great job.
$300. Easy.
$300. Yep, you get started for for $300 or $400. Go out, learn, make sure you're good and safe with the gun and proficient with the gun, and man, go start it. Just all you got to do, get out on the hill, start walking up the trail, and you're hunting. It ain't that hard. Sometimes I think we way overcomplicate it.
Well, and I think sometimes that is all you need to do to start. You have to do it that way because you're just peeling those pieces back. You realize, okay, I can do this. Now I can try the next thing and the next thing, and there you go. Well, so if people wanted to follow along with what you're doing online, or maybe reach out with some questions, where can they find you on the internet?
They can find me. I got Instagram. I'm at White Mountain Cur, and it's just like it sounds. White MTNCUR. That's my dogs, my coyote dogs that I have are White Mountain Curs. So that's my Instagram handle is White Mountain Cur.
There.
And on Facebook, it's just John Bair. B-A-I-R. Yep, B-A-I-R is the last name. And, reach out, if you got any questions, anything about the expo, anything about the auctions we have going on. If you want to talk coyote hunting or hunting dogs or anything like that, reach out. I love to talk to people. And, of course, that's why I'm involved in a big event like this. It's all about the wildlife, but it's all about the people. I mean, I can't imagine it without all the good people. So
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I had a great time.
Thank you so much for having me. Been looking forward to it for a long time. It's been great. Appreciate it very much. So
awesome.
All right, y'all, that'll do it for episode 108 of Living Country in the City. Big thank you to John for taking the time out of the expo to sit and talk with me. Make sure you head on over to the show notes page at livingcountryinthecity.com/108. Check out everything we talked about in today's episode. Also, make sure you head on over to Sawyer.com/Lyme-disease and check out ways that Sawyer can help protect you and your family from ticks and Lyme disease this summer. But until next time, keep it country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.